Hi guys, I'm just gonna say hi and just talk to you guys and just we've been thinking about what's going on in different countries at this time. I think it's a really bad crisis that we are going through, and it's so sad because I'm from Maya. I'm indigenous from this continent, from America, and I've been seeing China, Europe, United States, those countries that they really have a powerful system that in terms of scientists, medicines, and they have a health system which is maybe it's not the perfect, but it's working for most for their citizens. And imagine in any country, Central America, South America, which is the so many countries that they don't even have medicines. They don't even have a clinic to go for a simple flu or cold. They don't the government they don't even have a program for medicine for treatment for their citizens. Imagine to this pandemic. But this pandemic, I think every 100 years a pandemic comes back, and but this time, so many the government, Chinese and United States, they've been accusing themselves, which is it's understandable. All this conspiracy, all this infiltration in each government in each state exists because, as you know, in Venezuela, as you see in so many, I think if you guys been following some of the political movement what was going on, the United States were trying to invade Venezuela, but we saw that Figueroa, one of the director of I think national police in Venezuela, he was part of the CIA, he was part of the FBI, he was part of US Ed. So he was working as a agent, as a malicious, as a mercenary for the United States government. And they discovered him. And now he's in Europe. And an FBI or the United States or the government of the United States back then when he was part of Hugo Chavez police member, he was the United States, he was telling them like he was a torturer or he was a drug dealer. So I think he was one of the most wanted. But after they discovered him, now he's living free in Europe, and the justice of the United States is not even thinking about to go to arrest him. And the other thing too was like 3 weeks ago, if you seen the Cliver Alcala. Cliver Alcala, he was of the prominent generals under Hugo Chavez administration until Nicolas Maduro became president. So they discovered him that he was part of a conspiracy too, that he was a mercenary, that he was working with the government of the United States. And last 3 weeks, and he's a drug dealer too. He's been sending drugs to United States. So that's why the Department of Justice of United States, they put $10 million in his head, so anyone can tell them where he is, so they can get 10 millions. But we know that after they discovered him 3 weeks ago with these tons of rifles, tons of arms, tons were like $500,000 price. So they discovered that he'd been living in Colombia. In Colombia, he's one of the most produces cocaine in our continent. That the United States is part of this cocaine producing and consuming too, because the United States consumes, but not the people, but they are the most they're the people that they consume these drugs. So there is a a country that produces all this cocaine, and there is a country that this consumes all these drugs. So there is telling us something like they're trying to invade Venezuela by telling people like Nicolas Maduro and these top generals, they are the drug dealer and they are the ones that sending drugs to the United States. But who else in the United States? Who receives the drugs in the United States? If they are accusing someone in other country that they know that that guy he's he's been sending drugs in the United States, so they should know in United States who is the guy receiving all these tons of kilos of drugs. So that's the point here, that United States he's been creating, he's infiltrating, and they have agents, they have mercenaries that they works for the government, but they are working in another in different countries. So this is the same thing here about this pandemic. Now they've been accusing themselves, the Chinese government accusing the United States accusing the Chinese thing. But there's things like probably they right, but probably scientists they have a lot of things, lot of they have a challenge that to gather all this what's going on in different country to solve this problem or to find a cure. But as you see, most of this disease spread is about traveling people. But we see in California there is like a guy or a woman that never had a history of traveling or contacting someone, and he get he gets sick by this virus, coronavirus, in Guatemala, Central America too, in an indigenous community, Patzam Chimaltenango, a community member. He get this coronavirus from nowhere. He didn't have any history of traveling. He didn't have any history of contacting someone which is like sick or being in a hospital. So it's just like naturally he was sick with this coronavirus. So there is the other mystery of this pandemic, and there is the political side, and there is the conspiracy side, and there is where did it start, and there is the mystery of these two people that they were tested positive without getting contact with nowhere. But there is a hope too. I mean, in Wuhan, China, I mean, I think they going back now with normalizing their life. They opening the city after they been after they locked it for 3 months. I think since January, February, March, yeah, almost 4 months. The Wuhan was locked, and finally now I think they open it now for to normalize this life and to normalize the economy and to normalize giving the humans hope, giving the other countries hope that there is hope for this, but there is someone behind this too, or we would just keep it as a mystery, as a pandemic that nobody gonna discover where did it come from or who made it. But I always see this as part of the nature, and now they trying to use. Maybe I shouldn't use African people. I'm not gonna use the N word because I think it's not fair. But the African people, the government of the United States, that they saying they wanna try to use medicines in Africa first, which is I think is the most. I mean, I'm not surprised anyway after seeing President with his racist. Speech, and I think for him it's normal. But the other thing too, now Trump he's trying to blame the Health Organization in the United Nations about this. But remember, the Health Organization they were saying like 2-3 months ago, like this is a pandemic, and the people and the countries they should get prepared for it, and they start distributing and sending masks to different countries. Then the United States they didn't take this all these masks because they were like they weren't think about it. The president, he wasn't sure like this pandemic is not coming here, it's all under control. So, and the other thing too, there is a CDC, I think, Controlled Disease Center, that proves all these medical supplies. So that's why the federal government didn't push this as a real threat to the country. So they push back uh, all this United Nations advice. But now President Trump is trying to blame this organization, and now he's trying to cut the funds for this international organization. So that's why I've been saying that the United Nations should create a you should create some kind of organization inside the United Nations that he can really take care of this monetary fund, or how to see all these different type of economic problems in different regions. Because now United States, he's the country that putting sanctions in different countries, and shouldn't be that way. So it's hard to talk about it, but I think the hope that we see today, I think, is what's going on in Wuhan, China. Now they coming back, normalizing their life, but it's sad. I think so many thousand people, they're gonna get killed, they're gonna get infected, and I think this disease is gonna stay forever. I think it's not going away. If it goes away by itself, I mean, that's the greatest thing that the human can we experience. But we must change the way we think, the way we live, the way we see each other at this moment. So share this video, guys, and I know lots to be proud of, but we must be proud of our species, but we must take care of the other species, because so far so many people that they've been I mean, I'm not religious, I don't go to any church, and I'm not against any people that goes to the church, but at this moment, if you see, no matter like if you're religious or tall skin or the type of your color of your skin, this pandemic is teaching us something, that we are just a species of this mother nature, that is the only one that controls everything. But if we don't take care of this nature, or the air, that now the people, they can't go out, they've been locked at home, so they can't go for to buy food, or they can't go to travel another country. Why? Because this disease is like attacking the human. But imagine that if the air, if the nature gets contaminated, if this pandemic comes really an issue with the air that we basically we live with every day. Just maybe you can't even go outside to step in the street, or you can't even breathe. So that's why the Bible, I think, one of the best book that I read long time ago, it says so many things that we live in here today. But those evangelicals, or these pastors, or these priests of the Vatican, they've been lying about it. They've been selling things to the people, that the paradise or the hell, or you should, after this life you go into better life. That's doesn't exist. The God doesn't exist. Just like today, we don't have a cure for this pandemic, doesn't exist. Why? Because it didn't exist before. Today, the pandemic exists today. It's killing people. So if something exists, so then the human or the scientists have to study to find a cure for it. But it has to be something. If something exists, there is a cure for it. But if something doesn't exist, you can't find a cure of it. So that's why I always saying that if God exists, maybe there is a paradise, there is a hell somewhere. But if you can verify scientifically that who is God or which is God or what image that everybody thinks about God, if it's exists, so there should be better life. Just because it doesn't exist, so that's why after this life, it's all over for the human. So that's the little bit of thoughts and ideas and what we can learn about this pandemic. And if if something exists, it's because it's going to have a cure. If it doesn't exist, so nothing is exist. Okay, thank you guys, and share this video.